Psalm 72 ends Book 2 with a sense of longing for the eternal righteous King to rule forever. And as we move into Book 3, I sense that Psalm 73 intends to set the tone for what is to come. We will see whether that is the case, but one of the struggles that Christians have, and even I have this, is that we long for fairness. We long to see something other than what the situation really is. And so, even as Psalm 72 anticipates a day when the righteous king will rule eternally and justice will prevail, Psalm 73 gives us the other side of that coin, and it's the sign of reality where the wicked people prosper, seem to have no cares in the world, while the righteous struggle and do not seem to experience the justice and prosperity of the wicked, at least as a whole. There are exceptions. But the psalm writer here, you can see that it is Asaph, is reflecting upon this reality. And it presents to us in the form of a proverb where he is instructing the readers while also thinking about, in a very intensely deep way, the reality of the situation. You can see that there is a theme here of this conflict, and I've tried to point out feelings and also solutions. Again, this is not the only way to perceive this psalm. And you can see that I did not separate the stanzas of this psalm as many Bible versions have done, because sometimes I want to encourage everyone who would look at the Psalms to look at them as whole pieces. Often the stanzas that the Bible versions render are interpretive moves. And so any attempt that we have in trying to separate the stanzas or to categorize the various thoughts in them are subjective to an extent that they are not the only ways that we can look at these psalms in terms of their structure, in terms of the flow of their thoughts. And this is what I've tried to communicate over and over again, how so many of the psalms instruct and pray and warn and praise, all in an intermixed way. You can see here that the psalm writer Asaph declares the injustice, the futility, and as Christians, you can see how we could easily despair in such situations. But there are solutions. And this is not a how-to, but simply some directions that we as believers in Jesus Christ can take, because Jesus Christ himself took this kind of a spirit, this kind of an attitude. And you can nearly hear the voice of Jesus speaking this psalm as it looks forward to the one who would be able to instruct us along these lines in perfection. Know the outcome. Jesus says, as recorded in Matthew 7, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. Such is the spirit, at least one of the ideas, the tones, so to speak, that come through this psalm. The wicked people that the psalm writer refers to here, it's not a special category of evil. We see from Psalms 1 and 2 that the wicked are those who have decided not to bow to God's instruction, his law, and under the rule of the Messiah to come. So you can see the warning that this psalm portrays as it encourages those who are seeking, and even those who have already given themselves to the covenant God, to hold on to him, to trust him in faith, and to realize the outcome. While it challenges those who have rebelled against him, know the outcome. For the New Testament declares that it is a very dreadful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. God's judgment is great, but his mercy is even greater.